Astronauts are now growing gardens on the moon. However, it's the way that they're growing gardens on the moon that could be the secret to your social media marketing success. Now, in this video, I want to share with you that exact method. That way, you don't just create content that gets your name out there, but you create content and ads that generates leads and takes your business to the next level. Now, perhaps you've tried everything when it comes to digital marketing, social media advertising, PPC, because I know I have, right? I've created every single funnel, ClickFunnels, MailChimp, WordPress, everything. But in this video, what I want to do is I just want to take a step back and show you how things that are going on in real life are an example of how we should be going about our own marketing. You see, I've worked with some of the top entrepreneurs in the world. And before I started my own company, I actually decided to work with an agency before I started my own agency so I can learn the in and outs about how to go and deliver clients results. Now, before I show you how you can kind of use the same method these astronauts are using, I want to share an embarrassing story with you. A story I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell, but it's one that a lot of people aren't telling you about marketing, right? When I worked with that agency, I worked with hundreds of different clients, and quite frankly, a lot of them didn't get good results. In fact, I remember when I first got hired, one of the appealing things to the person who hired me was the fact that I worked with, one of my mentors, Ty Lopez, and things like that. And he wanted me to set up processes for him, because what would happen at the agency is that he'd get one client and then another client would go out the door, right? So he'd do all this hard work, going to conferences, posting content every day, and he'd bring in leads. But then old clients would just leave because we weren't giving them results. So it's just like money in, money out, right? Like marketing diarrhea, if you will, right? Like just whatever came in just went out. So I was tasked on fixing that, right? Developing systems, hiring freelancers. So whenever we got new clients, we can keep them and grow the business. But the reason why that was happening was because our campaigns were flopping, right? One of the things we used to always preach all the time was, create content, right? Be seen all the time. Get your message out there so people can know you. And we were doing that, yet we were getting fired all of the time. But the truth is that the reason why we were preaching content is because we were trying to play a numbers game because we didn't understand how to sell online, right? You hear that all the time about how sales is a number game, and to some degree that's true. But that doesn't mean you can be just ineffective, right? At the end of the day, you want to play the numbers game, but also increase your ratio of conversion of success at the same time. You don't want to just play the numbers game and not get better at what you do. In fact, one story that illustrates this was one time we were on the phone with the client, like a Zoom call or a video conference call, and we were looking at a Google document, right? And I remember just us going back and forth on whether this was good, whether this was bad. And in my head, I was like, this is not the right way to do it, right? Because what would happen is that the highest paid opinion person, that's like a saying I've heard, the highest paid opinion always won, right? So if the client was unhappy, we would just change it, right? Because they were paying our bills and we would change it. We don't want to upset them. And then we'd put something out. And then if it didn't work, guess what? They'd blame us for putting it out and we blame them for changing it. But the reality is you're hiring us to do the work, right? So because we were not confident about our process, we let the clients dictate what needed to go out. And I decided to change all of that. I remember when I worked with Ty Lopez, one of the things that he always taught me was the power of polling, the power of understanding your audience, the power of asking questions, right? It reminds me of the story of Wolf of Wall Street, right? If you remember the last scene of Wolf of Wall Street, he's like, sell me this pen. Sell me this pen. And what everybody did was, well, this pen is, ballpoint pen, or this pen is, will feel soft in your hands. And a couple years later, I ended up watching an interview from Jordan Belfort. And what he said you're supposed to do is you're supposed to ask the person a question. How can you sell somebody a pen if you don't know why they would need the pen? And it just brought me back to the days at the agency where I was like, we're trying to sell this person's corporate wellness package or this person's, consulting services or this person's book. And at no point did we ask the person buying the book why they would want it. Now, the reason why I bring this article up is because this article perfectly demonstrates the system that I built. If you're an entrepreneur, if you want to go about marketing the right way, right? If you want to be methodical and take the guesswork out of your marketing, then what I want to do is I want to go ahead, I want to share my screen. I want to take out my iPad and I want to just walk you through the concepts of how you can apply this to your marketing right now to start seeing big changes in not only the content that you're putting out, but the results that you're getting. So before I share my iPad, I just want to show you one of the biggest lies that's going on in marketing, right? In the marketing industry. So me, I studied from the best. I look to the top, right? If I wanted to play basketball, I'm looking at Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron, right? If I'm marketing, I'm looking at the people who get the most attention. Now, besides news, it's music. So we look at some of the top artists of 2018, right? We have Drake, Ariana Grande. If you go on the Spotify list, Post Malone, Cardi B, right? So just to illustrate where I'm coming from in this video, I did a quick Google search of how many songs were released by Drake in 2018, right? We have 26. So I did the same thing with Ariana Grande. So let me just do Control Find 2018, right? I mean, look at all this. So let's just do here. Let's do a count. All right, cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 songs, right? So we have Drake, one of the biggest in rap, with 26. We have Ariana Grande with 19, and then Cardi B with even less in 2018, right? So one of the biggest lies is that you have to put out content every single day, right? You just take links from the interwebs of the internet, you put them on your Facebook, and as long as you're sharing, you're getting your message out there, right? You're staying on top of mind. And what I want to invite you to do today is think about it like you have to create compelling, engaging enough content so you can pay for your advertising cost, right? Unless you want to do Groupon or stuff like that for the rest of your business career, which I know most of my clients don't, you have to make sure that you are able to spend money and make it back quickly because the stuff that you're putting out there is compelling. And it's such a great offer that people have no choice but to do it, right? So look at the top and look at, are the best musicians putting out 365 songs? No. In fact, if they were to be on TMZ every day, it would probably be a disaster, right? It would probably be a disaster. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go to my iPad and let's go over how you can use this astronaut method to grow your business. So what I do is when I like to read magazines every day because I want to see, just like I said before, I want to study the best, right? I don't want to, when I'm looking for marketing advice, I don't want to just go to Forbes.com. I don't want to just go to Google and read some random person's blog. I want to know who are the movers and shakers in this world? What are they doing for success? And how can I implement that in my business, right? So I came across this article in the New Scientist, and what I want to draw your attention to is this paragraph right here, right? This paragraph right here. So what this paragraph says is that if you just read this, it's basically saying how scientists are now growing gardens on the moon. But how they're doing it is very interesting, right? So read this kind of right here. It says 6 organisms are intended to form a mini ecosystem, right? With the plants making oxygen and food to sustain fruit flies. Yeast could process the flies' waste and dead plants to provide food resources, right? So this paragraph right here, what this is basically saying is that business works as an ecosystem. Right now, ecosystem, this is something that you probably remember in high school with photosynthesis, right? Where we breathe out carbon dioxide, plants take that in and give us oxygen. And that's what an ecosystem is, right? Or if you think to the Antarctica, penguins eat shrimp or whatever, and then whales eat penguins, and then like sharks eat the whales. And it's the same thing in business. So business works as an ecosystem. So the business ecosystem. And the problem is what most businesses do is they think everything starts with marketing, right? So their ecosystem looks like this: marketing, sales, fulfillment, and then it goes back to marketing, right? And this is what most businesses operate out of, right? So there's only a problem with this. And what I want you to think about is Netflix, right? Netflix. How did Netflix overtake Blockbuster? Well, their first campaign was no late fees. Now, my question to you is, how did they think about this campaign idea? Did somebody just think in a boardroom and say, no late fees, right? Was it just that mythical, that magical, or was it more methodical? Because if you remember back to the Blockbuster days, what would happen is you take a DVD, and if, God forbid, you went on a trip and came back, you have a $500 bill for it being 2 days late, right? And people were complaining about that. Now it's 2019, right? And in 2019, what do we have? We have Quora. We have Reddit. We have Facebook groups. We have Amazon. Amazon. We have Yelp. We have Facebook reviews. We have blog comments, right? So what I'm saying to you now is that people are complaining more than ever, yet why aren't we just duplicating what Netflix does, right? Back in Netflix days, they had to have like focus groups to figure this stuff out. Now we could just go online and figure out, okay, what are people complaining about? What are people complaining about? That way we can just duplicate this on demand. Now, what if you were able to duplicate the success of a Netflix and other successful marketing campaigns on demand? How would that change your business, right? So what are people complaining about? Now, here's the deal. I told you about some of the mentors and people I've worked with. I remember one time I worked with Ty. He asked a question and he gave away a laptop because he wanted a lot of feedback. And he made me read through 3,000 comments. And I was pissed. I'm like, why do I got to do that, right? So here's what the business ecosystem should look like, right? So the right business ecosystem should look like this. It starts with complaints / feedback. Then it goes to marketing. Then it goes to sales. Then it goes to fulfillment. Then it goes to complaints and feedback. Now, just like I said about that agency, every business has an attrition rate, which means that people are going to come and people are going to go, right? No business has a customer forever, at least not 100% of the customers forever, right? So what happens, either you can have people leave and just say, hey, that's just the cost of doing business. Or what you can do is listen to the complaints and use that in your marketing, right? This is how businesses have spinoffs. This is how business have, create extra streams of income for themselves, right? Now, what if Blockbuster did the marketing, which they were good at to some degree? They got a lot of sales, but what Blockbuster's problem was the fulfillment. Now, people were complaining and they just didn't care. Now, what if they created the Netflix? That would have been a spinoff and an extra stream of income, and they still be in business today, right? So that's how you need to look at your business, right? Now, 1 second. Now, when I take on new clients, here are some of the things that they almost normally never have in place, right? Number one, they're always in a rush, right? Because it takes a pain to go forward with the business transaction. So by the time they're committed to paying my fee, they've already been thinking about it for 6 months, right? However, they give me 0 phone calls, right? 0 phone calls. They run 0 surveys, and have 0 email support complaints. Now, this right here is the number one thing a business should be doing, right? So if you follow guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and things like that, he'll say, I day trade attention, right? I day trade attention, and how attention is the most important currency in the world. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing with currency, right? If you have no value, can you get currency, right? If you walked in, and if an employee walked into your place of business and said, I want currency, right? I want money, they would have to provide you some value in order to get that, right? This is how currency works. Now, by definition, and this is just pure logic, if attention equals currency, well, don't you need value in order to get attention? And that's where people go wrong. They listen to guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and things like that, and they're like, okay, I want to day trade attention too. Let me put content, vlog. Let me put stuff out every day because I'm gonna get attention. But really, if you had an employee come in every day and they sucked, they ain't getting no currency, no matter how much they work, because it's about the end result, right? So what I'm saying to you is, if you want attention, you need to know how to get it. And if you don't know what people are complaining about because you record 0 phone calls and run 0 surveys and have 0 things organized, well, how are you supposed to get attention? Do you think it's just going to be a volume game? That's how you quit. That's how you burn out. That's how you stop marketing. That's how you go out of business, right? That is the problem, right? So let's just go back to this article, all right? So what they say right here is that astronauts, International Space System, have grown crops including peas, radishes. It's hard to read, right? Radishes, cucumbers, they grow in their first bite. They've been doing this since 2015, right? So here's the thesis of this. Here's what I'm trying to say, right? If your business is not where it wants to be, right? If anything in life is not where it wants to be, we speak about, there's an article I read today about global warming, okay? Well, guess why global warming is such an issue besides making the earth hot? It messes up ecosystems, okay? Because if the world gets hotter, right? Well, guess what? Things in the sea die, right? So if you kill all of the shrimp because they can't live in a hot water environment, well, not only do the shrimp die, but as a result, the penguins that eat the shrimp die. As a result, the whales that eat the penguins die, right? So whenever something is going wrong, whenever something is wrong, that means the ecosystem is messed up. Okay? So if your business is not where it wants to be, if you're not generating the amount of leads that you want to, you have to look at your ecosystem. Right? Everything is in duality. This is one of the things I remember I took a computer programming class, right? You have ones and you have zeros, right? You have ones, you have zeros, right? In photosynthesis, you have humans, you have plants. right? In this article that we just went over today, they have, uh, they have basically fruit flies, yeast, and then they have, kind of soil / plant, right? So this gives this food by waste, right? And this, boom, same thing here, right? So what I'm saying to you is that if your business is not getting leads, it's because you're not following this ecosystem right here, right? And that's just the reality of business. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you an example of how you can gather complaints in the marketplace, whether it's through phone calls, surveys, or scraping the internet and forums, and how you can use that in your business. So let me share my screen and show you one of the workbooks that we create internally in our business so we can make sense of what's going on in the industry and use that in our marketing. So this right here is a workbook for one of the clients, and we're doing a campaign, Valentine's Day campaign for Juvederm, okay? So instead of just marketing Juvederm, whatever that means, what we do is we first look for negative emotions, positive emotions, objections, declarative statements, current mechanisms, desires in the marketplace, right? So this right here is a combination of, again, we're going to get a lot more. My staff member is just, she's in the middle of doing it. But what we do is this is a combination of phone calls that are transcribed, right? So we transcribe previous phone calls that the client's sales staff had with their clients. We transcribe them and we put some of the stuff in here. We have ran surveys, email surveys where people answered, and we put some of that stuff in here. And now what we do is just like a general in war or just like a coach of a sports team, we can take a 10,000-foot view and see what's going on. We can see the forest from the trees and say, okay, these are the negative emotions that people have. Now, the next step here is, to categorize it and things like that. But this is what I'm talking about an ecosystem, because now when we write our ads, we're taking the guesswork out of it, right? There's copywriting frameworks that we can use to take this and literally turn this comment into an ad that generates leads for the business, because now we're becoming online sales people, not just content pushers, posting links that get no engagement, right? Telling stories about things that people don't care about. We always start with the customer first. We start with their complaints, right? Their desires, their objections. And once we overcome that, then our ecosystem is on point, and then we start generating leads. So here's what I want to do. What I want to do is, if you click this link below, I'm going to take you to a landing page where I give you a tutorial on how you can use this workbook for yourself in your business. I'm going to walk through step by step how you go on Quora, how you use Reddit, how do you break down a survey, how do you break down a sales call, right? And how do you put that into this workbook, and then how do you take it out the workbook to create ads, right? I actually just ran a marketing campaign for a chiropractic client of mine where we sold out his neuropathy dinner. Now remember, we're selling a dinner online, which is probably the hardest thing to do. That means we had to get people out their homes to the location at a specific time where they might have work. The hardest campaign to run, in-person campaign online, we sold it out in 30 minutes, right? So what I want to do, and actually let me just show you a testimonial. So this is the testimonial for one of my clients, right? Where he just told me, this is 30 minutes after I launched the campaign, where he said, we might need to pause the Facebook ad soon. Just got like 10 more people. Wow. Right? So in 30 minutes, we were able to get in 22 leads. In 30 minutes, right? Sold out the dinner. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you exactly how I did it, right? It's nothing magical. You don't have to be Stephen King to come up with the best ad copy. You don't need to be a chicken with their head cut off, putting things in, Hootsuite and Buffer so you can be on top of mind. You have to just understand your prospect, your client, your patient, and you need to reflect what they're already feeling back at them, right? How many times have you ever been emotional or gone through something and all you needed was a person that can relate to you? Well, that's what we do. Instead of us just going on a Zoom call and you guessing and me guessing, what if we actually ask them and let them, right? Let your old customers get you new customers. So if that sounds interesting to you, if that sounds like something you want to do, click the link below. I'm going to send you to a landing page where I go over step by step. No, no opt-in, no nothing like that. I'm going to send you to a tutorial where I show you step by step how you can use this workbook to grow your business 10x. Okay. Click the link below, go to the landing page, watch that tutorial. And if you want the workbook for yourself, there's an option to go ahead and get that as well. So I'll see you on the other side.